Anybody else have anything? I want to play a little bit.
Go. Could you go over some hand stick control techniques that you use for speed?
I can try. I don't really have any. You know, that's something I've never really focused on, and I tell people all the time I was never like a drum nerd to the point where I worried about technique. Because I grew up in a very musical household, I actually literally grew up in a recording studio for the most part. And every bit of my technique that I have as a player came from me understanding what sound it was that I wanted. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense? Because there's, you know, there's so many ways to hit a drum. You can hit a drum like this, or you can hit it like this. You know, so that's where that is where all of my technique came from. What sound am I trying to achieve? You know, for me, I wanted something that was fat and open. I wanted to hit a drum and hear it go, ooh. You know, I knew I couldn't get that by going, you know, so the sound changes, and, you know, that's where I based all of my technique from. Was I achieving the correct sound? If you are achieving the correct sound that you're looking for, then you're playing with the right technique. I don't care what anybody tells you. I mean, if this is the sound you're going for, that's the technique you should be playing with. Seriously. I mean, you know, there's all these guidelines and rules about, you know, hand posture. Everybody says, oh, work on a practice pad. Get your hands exactly perfect or whatever. What happens when you get on a drum kit? Your hand position changes. You know, so I never thought about like technique from that point of view so much until I started getting asked about it. And I guess there's natural principles, you know, molar, what goes up must come down, you know. But I never knew that was the technique. To me, that's just somebody's name. You know, this is a physical principle, it's a motion, you know. Same thing with like, I've noticed drums sound better if they're flat. The flatter they are, the better they sound to me. Especially when you put a mic on it, you can hear it, because when it's sitting like this, and the wood is projecting in a weird way, the flatter that thing gets, the better it sounds. And I, you know, just little things like that I started noticing. So I started paying attention to what happened to the drumstick when it hit a flat surface versus a surface that was slanted or angled, right? You ever been playing basketball or whatnot, and you're on like an old crappy court somewhere, and there's a piece of cement that's not level, and you know, you think you got it, and you hit that piece, and the ball just goes off another direction? It's the same thing that happens here with the drums. And we spend probably 60% of our motion and our time trying to control which way the drumsticks are bouncing. So if I take that out, you know, if I know that every time I throw this stick, no matter what, it's going to come right back up at me, I can't say that if I had a tilted snare drum. You're taking a gamble, depending on where you're hitting from, which way it's going to go. So I take all of that out. Just alleviate all of it, get rid of it. It's the only thing I got to concentrate on is that actual, there's that stroke. You know, I don't really focus on any of this stuff because the sticks, naturally, they're already back there. You know, so there again, that was a technique that developed off of my sound. You know, same thing with the bass drums. I mean, people ask me about foot technique all the time. I just run on the pedals, man. I don't know how to, you know, I just, it's just like you were sitting at a desk or whatever. But ironically, if I'm playing the same tempos just with one foot, my heel comes up and it's mostly ankle. I have no idea why. I'm not going to ask the question because I can get done what I need to get done. You know, so I never really questioned any of that stuff. For me, I think it was more of a case of conditioning, if that makes any sense. Just playing this fast music all the time, I developed a technique that pretty much allows me to be able to play, you know, all of these notes and everything just because that's the style of music I play, you know. But I don't really have too much. I mean, obviously, single-stroke rolls are a great thing to do for your hands if you're trying to gain control. I like doing micro-control lessons for myself where you're, you know, maybe you're playing, you know, like keeping all the little ghost notes soft and then the backbeat, bam, bam, you know. Those type of exercises, when you get control over that type of stuff, that's when the facility really starts to come, you know, and you understand what's going on in your hands and the motions and the movement, you know. Anybody seen Jojo Mayer do this push-pull thing, you know? I mean, that's a cool little technique, and he spent years developing that, you know, and he can do all this really, really cool stuff with it, you know. So what are we capable of as humans when it comes to technique? Sky's the limit, you know. What is it you're going to come up with that's going to make you, you? I feel that's more important than technique. You know, what's going to make said individual drummer stand out and be the guy that people go, yeah, I can tell by a snare sound, I know who that guy is, or, you know. And I guess that technique affects all of that, but really from my perspective, it was always in regards to sound and what I wanted my drums to sound like. So, in a nutshell, I hope I didn't digress too much there. All right, anybody else? Yo.
How fun was it jamming with the Dream Theater guys?
Totally cool. Those guys were as laid back and as chill as they could be. Really, really cool. Yeah, good experience. It was really cool. Yeah, been exchanging some emails back and forth with John a little bit, and you know, talking about maybe doing something heavy in the future. Never know. But yeah, it was a very cool experience. I was totally caught off guard. I got a call to go audition at Dream Theater. I was like, what? Who figured that, you know? I even asked John, I was like, how did you guys think of calling me? He's like, oh, I'm a huge fan. I got all your records. I just downloaded Surfer's Rise last week. Go figure, you know? But it was a cool honor to do it. And yeah, it was a very cool experience for sure. Totally pro. Yeah. Yo.
Can you talk a little bit about your new pedal that came out?
Yes, I can. Essentially, it's just the Axis A21. If anybody's not familiar with the Longboard 21, we made a slight adjustment in the angle at which the beater goes into the drive shaft, and it allows you to pull back the axle point and get the beater further away from the head without actually playing through the ultimate power point, which the old Axis pedals used to do. These pedals do not, so you get more of that kind of throw, more of a traditional kind of bass drum feel in it. There's a little more meat behind it. My pedals come with the triggers installed, which is a good thing for us metal guys without having to order them separately. They just come right on the pedal, so that's a cool thing. And other than that, it's nothing different from my, you know, actual signature pedal than the original Longboard, with the exception of the new A21, you know, #1 piece that's on the pedal that drives it to the Axis. And if you guys want to like walk around and check out the pedals and whatnot, actually, you know what? Since I got one here, I'm not going to put any beaters in it or anything. You guys can kind of pass it around and